The world's most dangerous borders, places where crossing means death. On a map, a border is just a line, a thin mark drawn by politicians, sometimes in pencil, sometimes in blood. It separates one set of laws from another, one language from another, one world from another. But some of those lines are different. Some of those lines have teeth. Today, we're going to walk 5 of the most dangerous borders on Earth. Borders where the wrong step, the wrong moment, the wrong look in the wrong direction can end your life. These aren't war zones from history books. Most of them are active right now. Some of them made news this year. This is Dark Geography. Let's draw the line. Border number 1, the Korean DMZ, the line that never ended a war. The Korean War ended in 1953, except it didn't end, it just stopped. No peace treaty was ever signed. North and South Korea agreed only to a ceasefire, a pause in fighting, and drew a line across the 38th parallel. That line became one of the most fortified borders in human history. The Korean Demilitarized Zone stretches 160 miles across the peninsula and is about 2.5 miles wide. Inside that strip, an estimated 2 million landmines, razor wire, anti-tank traps, guard towers every few hundred meters, staffed by soldiers from 2 countries that are technically still at war. The irony is the name. It's called the Demilitarized Zone. It's one of the most militarized places on Earth. Prior to 2018, the South Korean side alone contained an estimated 1.2 million landmines. North Korea had planted another 800,000 on their side. In 2024, South Korea's military confirmed that North Korean soldiers were suffering casualties, multiple soldiers killed or maimed, from their own newly planted mines while building fortifications in the heat. The DMZ is also, bizarrely, one of the most biodiverse places in Asia, with humans locked out for 70 years. Amur leopard cats, Asiatic black bears, and red-crowned cranes have quietly reclaimed it. Nature moved in where people were afraid to go. But here is the number that matters. Since 1953, hundreds of soldiers from both sides and from the United States have been killed in incidents along the DMZ, not in war, in the ceasefire. The war never ended. The dying never stopped. The line just got a name. Border number 2, India, Bangladesh, the shoot-on-sight fence. The border between India and Bangladesh is 2,545 miles long, one of the longest in the world. It's also one of the most confusing. The colonial-era boundary was drawn with such chaos that there are places where Indian land sits surrounded by Bangladeshi territory, surrounded in turn by Indian territory again. These pockets, called enclaves, left thousands of people technically stateless for decades. In 2015, after 40 years of negotiations, most were finally resolved, but the border itself remained deadly. India has built a fence along most of this border, floodlit, electrified in some sections, and patrolled by the Border Security Force with a policy that human rights organizations have called a de facto shoot-on-sight order. Between 2000 and 2010 alone, more than 1,000 people were killed at this border. Many were not smugglers or criminals. Many were farmers who crossed the confusing poorly marked line accidentally. Some were children. One of the most documented cases was Felony Khatun, a 15-year-old girl shot while trying to cross the fence with her father to return to Bangladesh after visiting family in India. Her body was left hanging in the wire for hours before it was cut down. India's justification is that the border is a major route for smuggling, human trafficking, and illegal migration. That's true, but human rights groups argue the response has been wildly disproportionate and that hundreds of those killed had no criminal intent at all. A fence, floodlights, a trigger finger, and a line so confusing that you can cross it without knowing. Border 3. The Darien Gap, the jungle that swallows people. The Pan American Highway runs from Alaska to the southern tip of Argentina, nearly 30,000 miles of road connecting an entire hemisphere. Except for one place, one 60-mile gap in the jungle between Colombia and Panama, where the road simply stops. The Darien Gap. There are no roads, no bridges, no infrastructure of any kind. Just 5,000 square kilometers of swamp, rainforest, mountain passes, and rivers that flood without warning. And moving through it, controlled by drug cartels and guerrilla groups, is one of the most dangerous migration routes on Earth. Tens of thousands of people attempt the crossing every year, from Venezuela, Haiti, Ecuador, West Africa, and beyond, hoping to reach North America. The journey takes between 5 and 10 days on foot, through mud, through rivers, through territory where armed groups rob, assault, and sometimes kill the people passing through. The bodies of those who don't make it are sometimes found along the trail. In many cases, unburied. A Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist who made the crossing described unburied skulls and bones visible along the path. A reminder for everyone walking behind of what this route costs. In 2024, at least 55 people were confirmed dead in the Darien. Panamanian authorities believe the real number is far higher because many bodies are never found in the jungle. And among those who crossed in 2024, 180 children were found abandoned, left behind in the jungle when their families became separated or when their parents could no longer carry them. The Darien Gap is not a war zone. No government ordered these deaths. The jungle and the people who control it did the work instead. Border 4. Syria, Turkey, the border that became a killing field. Before 2011, the border between Syria and Turkey was relatively unremarkable. Trade moved across it, families visited relatives. It was just a border. Then Syria collapsed into civil war and everything changed. Since the conflict began, millions of Syrians have fled toward Turkey, the only escape route for people in northern Syria. But the border became a trap. Turkish forces patrolled aggressively. Human rights organizations documented repeated incidents of Syrians being shot while attempting to cross. Smugglers who knew the terrain charged thousands of dollars, money most families didn't have. Beyond the Turkish forces, the border region became saturated with landmines, militant factions, and criminal networks. The Syrian side of the crossing is contested territory, at different points controlled by Syrian government forces, Kurdish militias, Turkish-backed factions, and remnants of ISIS. Crossing is not a matter of finding a gap in a fence. It's a matter of navigating multiple armed groups, any of which may shoot first and ask questions later. Turkey has now taken in more refugees than any other country in the world. Over 3 million Syrians registered, with hundreds of thousands more unregistered. That is a staggering humanitarian achievement. But the route that brought them there left an unknown number of people dead in the scrubland between the two countries. The war in Syria is not over. The border is not safe, and the landmines buried in the soil on both sides will remain dangerous long after the last soldier leaves. Border 5, United States-Mexico, the deadliest migration route on Earth. The United States and Mexico share one of the busiest borders on Earth, nearly 2,000 miles, crossed legally hundreds of millions of times every year by workers, tourists, and families. It is also, according to the United Nations, the deadliest land migration route in the world. The danger is not concentrated at official crossings. It's the gaps between them, in the deserts, rivers, and mountain ranges where people attempt to cross without documentation. The Sonoran Desert in Arizona, the Rio Grande in Texas, stretches of terrain so brutal that Border Patrol agents leave water stations in the wilderness, knowing people will die of dehydration without them. In 2022, 686 deaths and disappearances were recorded at or near the U.S.-Mexico border, nearly half of all migration-related deaths in the entire Western Hemisphere. Experts widely believe the true number is higher because bodies in remote desert terrain are often never found. The causes of death are starkly geographic. Hypothermia in summer, when temperatures exceed 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Hypothermia in winter, when desert nights drop below freezing. Drowning in the Rio Grande, which is deceptively fast and deep. And violence from the cartels, who control many of the crossing corridors and charge a fee to use them. This is not a new crisis. People have been dying at this border for decades. What has changed is the scale. The geography is the weapon. The desert doesn't need a gun. 5 borders, 5 lines on a map. The Korean DMZ, a ceasefire that never became peace. The India-Bangladesh fence, a boundary so confusing it kills the people trying to follow it. The Darien Gap, a jungle that has swallowed thousands of people whole. The Syrian-Turkish border, a war zone masquerading as a crossing. And the U.S.-Mexico desert, where geography itself has become the deadliest enforcement tool on Earth. Borders aren't neutral. They are decisions. Someone drew them. Someone militarized them. Someone decided what it would cost to cross them. The people who die at these borders are not statistics. They are people who believe that what was on the other side was worth the risk. Some of them were right. Most of them will never know. That's the thing about borders. They don't just divide countries, they divide the ones who made it from the ones who didn't. If this kind of dark geography is what you're here for, subscribe. Drop a comment with the border you want covered next. And I'll see you at the next line.